Hello everybody! Today we're going to be talking about Neovim patterns and how much more power they actually have than you would initially think. First of all, how did I even discover all of this? Well, it's pretty simple. I have a strange hobby of just randomly reading the Neovim help documents. I literally just read through all of them and learn about stuff. So it's not like I heard this from somewhere or just came across it. No, I just literally am reading docs as a pastime, which is kind of hilarious on its own. So let's look at what we can talk about. Okay, let's talk about the second most useful thing that I have discovered. Let's put chat like this and go to here. So let's try to make up a situation, which does actually happen very often. And before I just didn't have any way to handle it. You know what else we need to handle? The notification in my Discord server about me streaming right. If I was in Neovim, I could just press Ctrl Y many times. About Neovim patterns. And let's do 1F9. I think it goes like 7.4. Nope, that's the wrong one. 1F9, 7.3. Here we go. Coming back. So, imagine this situation. We have a couple of lines here, and I'm noticing a certain pattern. I'm noticing that all of these have brackets, as well as these. So, let's say what happened is that now I don't need to pass the number to this function explicitly, and it just takes that number like by itself. So what I need to do here is remove the brackets. I mean, I would technically also have to remove function and end, but for the example, let's just say that I wanted to remove these brackets and including the number in them. How would I do this? So, well, first of all, I would go and use S, the substitute command. Let's try using it. So we change brackets to be nothing. And I can actually stop right here, and this will remove brackets once I press enter. As you can barely see because of the warnings, it's kind of harder to see, but I have removed the brackets. However, the issue is that I removed the brackets that are first, like the first brackets, instead of the second that I wanted to capture. Okay, let's try removing these, like the extra ones. Another option that we have is use G. This will remove both brackets, the first set and the second set. That is if we actually catch the number instead of second brackets. And we can do so like this. Interesting. My example actually doesn't give me an option to show off what I'm trying to show off. Because once we catch the number inside of these brackets, well, we have solved our issue and removed the brackets as we wanted. So I guess I can't make up a good enough example. So let's just run with it. Let's go back to substitute. And effectively, what I'm trying to show off here is being able to only substitute something or catch something, match, search, etc. that is in your latest selection. You can see here that I have block selected just this. Yeah. So to kind of give more sense to the example, let's just go here, enter 0, and then go over here and G, capital A. Now these are equivalent. If I didn't have these warnings, there's probably some way to disable them, like diagnostic config. I can't technically use it interactively, but it's way too annoying, so I guess just bear with the warnings, which are kinda annoying right now. I should make a mapping to toggle these for what it's worth, but I haven't yet. So right now, the previous way that I did this, where I'm like, okay, this, right? Now when I do S and try to replace brackets with nothing, both of them, well, now I remove these brackets when I don't intend to. I only wanted to act on these ones, but I end up removing both. And without the G flag, I only remove the first ones, which is not at all what I wanted. So effectively, what I can do is say, oh, in my latest selection, that is the region where we should search for the following pattern. And now it all works correctly. Once again, it's pretty hard to see, but only the second set of brackets got removed. Woohoo! Yay! And that was because we made sure to say only search for whatever the pattern is in my latest selection. And what's amazing is that this \% capital V works exactly how you would want. So I selected using like block mode, visual block mode, and it only it only looked at the block. Right, so I select this, and it only searches within this kind of area. Then, if I did a normal selection, like this for example, what would happen here is that these brackets would not get touched. Let's just imagine again that they have numbers again, to make this example make more sense. But every single other bracket would get touched, because this is not in the selection and all of this is. So effectively, \% capital V works like you would want by using your selection. It's only really useful for normal selection and block selection, because if you do like line selection, I mean, that's already what this range does. You can't pass a character-wise range to commands, like you can't do this, right? It will still consider the range as line-wise, it will not consider characters, which is why we need something like this. I find it interesting that it doesn't even show me what's happening. I think because providing quotes like that isn't even valid, and seems like that's the case. Yeah, so if you're using visual line, you don't need to use this at all because the range already works, right? But let's try to experiment with it a bit. So I select something, And remember, \% capital V looks at your latest selection. It does not have to be active. So it still targets my latest selection, even though I'm currently not in an active selection. Which means once I go to command mode, I don't get the range filled in automatically for me. For what it's worth, I can actually enter it myself. This works. So nothing special here. But let's say I don't. I do S and then redo my thing. So right now it searches within this range of lines, within this visual selection, because it's my latest visual selection, and searches for brackets here, replacing them with nothing, so removing them. Okay, so considering that it searches in this entire area, why are these not caught? Because you still have to provide a range to S. What we are currently doing is that execute the substitute command on the current line because we did not provide a range. So even though we specify, oh, search within my last visual selection, it can only consider the current line because that's the range that we passed, which is quite an interesting way that it works. It makes sense within the Vim/Neovim kind of mentality, you could say, but it is interesting that it works this way. I'd kind of prefer to make it search within the whole visual selection regardless of the range that you passed, but then this wouldn't be Neovim really, you know? So what we can do is provide %, and now it works like you would expect. But at that point, just say GV to bring back your selection and press enter, and here you go. Well, you would press colon, I press enter because that's my mapping. And here you go. And this is equivalent to the %\% approach that we just did, but this is more visual, so I would even say it's better. But yeah, technically you don't have to, because you can do this. It's more wordy, it's less like visible, I guess. And at this point, it doesn't even show you all the matches, which is strange. Yeah, I wonder why. Did it like break or something? I guess, huh? Oh, here you go. Let's go and create some file to show off in a bit more visual way, in a bit more understandable way, like the power behind this. Let's do 8i test space. Did I say 89 8i test space? Yank this line and like 3p. This is going to be a bit more easy to look at, which is why I'm considering it. Let's do S. Then in my visual selection, search for test. And actually we don't need to replace it with anything. Test missed. Or best. Yeah, let's do best. So essentially, look what's happening here. We provide the range, which is a line-wise range of every line that we selected, which is all lines. We have selected all lines in visual block mode. But only catch things that are within or in my latest visual selection. We selected, if I remember correctly, which is funny that I forget this easily, I think we selected this region, which is why this is not caught, which is like incredible. Then when we do G, oh wow, I actually remembered what we caught. When we do G, what the G flag for substitute does is that it replaces not only the first match, but all the matches on like each line. Because by default, the substitute command only replaces the first match, which is strange behavior, but I'm actually okay with it. If I remember correctly, you can set some option to make sure that the G flag is included by default, and when you provide G, you undo it. And I probably should enable that, honestly. But it's really not a big deal, so I don't particularly care. So I'm pretty sure it's obvious how this is incredibly useful when there's no way, or it's difficult to provide a pattern that would differentiate between the same thing effectively. It's just test repeating many times. Hey, what terminal is that? This is the kitty terminal, a terminal that I infamously despise, and I still do. Why would you use it then? You might ask, why are you using it? Because it is unfortunately the best terminal out there. I am saddened by this fact, but unfortunately Kitty is the best terminal. But oh my god, if you want to use this terminal, and if you're at least half as configurative as I am, you're going to have a horrible time. You're going to bash your head against the wall. So in terms of what terminals I recommend Alacrity. I cannot recommend Kitty. Kitty is a terrible user experience. Just the other day, and actually I haven't even fixed this issue, it introduced a fucking scroll bar. I didn't ask for it. It was it just got included into my config. So obviously, what I do is first ask find, how do I remove the scroll bar in Kitty? And it gave me some bullshit answer that didn't work and didn't exist yet, because I assume it's a pretty recent change. I wonder if it actually gives me, nope, it does not give me the answer. So I'm like, okay, damn, okay, let's go to the docs and try to, as usual, search for something that you will never find because these docs are horrendous. Does not mention how to remove it in GitHub issues. See, when I use a program, I shouldn't have to look into the development cycle and GitHub issues to figure out how to use a built-in feature that should be in the docs and should be easily searchable in the docs. So scroll bar, and you will see that, and by the way, I'm pretty sure there's no GitHub issues about that yet. So you can't find this in the docs. Let's try finding it on Google. Kitty scroll bar, remove Kitty scroll bar. This is just a person asking if it even exists. Nobody answered, by the way. This is other. So, like, valid points, like, look at GitHub issues, but seemingly there's no GitHub issue about this. And this is not a one case type of situation where it's like, what the hell? How do I use this bullshit software? This happens a lot and very commonly with Kitty, where something very simple is wildly difficult, hard to search for, or impossible many times, and you may possibly find a kinda solution through some Stack Overflow thread or GitHub issue. But many times you won't find comprehensive documentation that would actually explain how it works, what to change, blah blah blah. And someone was more lucky than me and actually found the setting that you need to change by reading the change log. Let's look at it again. What is this? By all accounts, it is a scroll bar. If you argued that this is not a scroll bar because, oh, actually, you can't grab it to scroll, I would slap you. I don't think that's valid at all. This is a scroll bar, regardless if you can grab to scroll using it or not. This is a scroll bar. It's called a fucking scroll back indicator. I will murder the maintainer of Kitty right now. So yeah, that's why I cannot for the life of me actually recommend Kitty. I think it's a terrible user experience, and it is also unfortunately the best terminal out there on the market, which is really fucking sad. Did you try Alacrity plus Tmux? Yes, I used Alacrity and I enjoyed it quite a lot. I can very easily recommend it. I contemplated using Tmux, but I realized that I don't need the feature of multiplexing so much to go for Tmux. Heard very good things about the Kitty author. I'm pretty sure this is sarcasm, because yeah, same. Dude is infamous for being a fucking demon. Yeah, but I think I complained enough about Kitty on my channel already. So the reason why I haven't reached actually using Tmux is, yeah, first of all, I didn't feel like I needed multiplexing that much. And while that is true, you might argue, well, it's still a good thing. You're going to benefit from it. That is very correct. However, I am a lunatic configurator. I know just how much time I would spend on configuring Tmux. Likely way more time than any average Tmux user. I would spend a lot of time and energy into it, and I would love it for sure. I don't doubt that, but it just wasn't worth the time investment that I know I would have. Once again, I've heard this argument many times, oh, you don't have to put that much effort in to get it working and for it to be pretty good. Yeah, maybe overall you don't have to, but I would. I know myself, and I know that I would go out of my way to be super precise and autistic about it, you know? So that's why I didn't try it out. Another reason is that the what's it called? The rendering speed of Alacrity is 2 times slower than Kitty, and Alacrity plus Tmux is 4 times or 3 times slower than Kitty. I'm not gonna claim that you can notice it that much, but it was sorta noticeable, and that's without Tmux. So I really didn't want to get acquainted and love Tmux and have an even worse rendering speed. Does that make sense? And also another benefit of Kitty is that it renders more correctly. If you look at Kitty and Alacrity side by side, you will see that the text in Kitty just simply looks much better. I really didn't want to switch back to Kitty, so I went into a visual test, basically trying my hardest to argue against Kitty. There's no way it can be that noticeable. I mean, the rendering speed and quality. But it was so overwhelmingly obvious and clear that unfortunately I had to switch back to Kitty because it was just that much better. And yeah, still the user experience of using Kitty is still terrible. And I doubt that will ever change. So I'm effectively waiting for another new good terminal to come out that will trump Kitty enough for me to switch to it. Yeah, makes sense. When I see choppiness when scrolling in Neovim, I freak out. Yeah, pretty much. and Kitty handles that like fairly noticeably better, especially if you're using Alacrity plus Tmux. Yeah. Hi, Gangan. If you use both, you're probably going to see an even bigger difference. I've heard of Ghost TTY, which I got like surprised people were interested in, because it felt like, oh, it's just some guy's project, but turns out it's some guy that made very impressive things. So I hope it's going to be the next best terminal. But coming back to our patterns, and I have to mention, I'm using the substitute command here, but this thing isn't substitute command exclusive. It works in patterns. So in search patterns with your /search or question mark search, or any other place that uses Vim patterns. So this works everywhere, by the way. Yeah, and he posts on Twitter about performance stuff. That's great. I hope it will overtake or at least match Kitty in performance. And then I don't see how it would be... like, you have to actively try to make a user experience as bad as on Kitty. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be better, because I'm not happy about using Kitty, you know? I say unfortunately because I'm not happy. Yeah, so I showed off how it is super useful to be able to use your latest visual selection to make your pattern way easier than if you tried to differentiate the first test with other tests. I assume it's possible somehow. Actually, let's try to make it happen. So after the first test, space, let's do \ZS, and I talked about this in one of my previous streams. And then we do test, I think. But what's happening here is that we don't catch every singular test, we catch like 4 tests at a time, and then we have to do best. So yeah, I guess you can do it like this, but this is much more, at the very least, typing, and it's kind of more annoying and complex. And you won't be able to use this approach in every situation. It's going to be even more complex and annoying most of the times. But if you use your visual selection and then blammo test, here you go. Right? It's like very easy. So that's why this is amazing. Are you debating about terminal emulator? Yep. Personally, if it show images in my terminal and display ASCII text, I don't care if it's run at speed of light. Yeah, I do agree. And Kitty does actually show images, which is great. There are other terminals, I'm sure, that show images, but I don't know of other ones. I generally don't care about speed whatsoever, but I did notice a pretty significant difference in comparison with Alacrity, which, once again, like, I didn't want to notice. I wanted, more than anything, to lie to myself, like, oh, it doesn't matter at all. But I did notice a difference big enough where that could overtake my bias towards Alacrity, towards using Alacrity. Wait, we can use something else than a / for separator? Yep. In the sed command, because the substitute command comes from sed initially, you don't actually have to use /. You can use any character that you want. I use semicolons because they're kind of easier to press and they don't appear very often. In Neovim and Vim specifically, you can use any character except the bar, I believe / and something else. I don't remember what, but you can use mostly any character that you want. the benefit of this is that now you don't have to escape forward slashes, which in my opinion appear way more often than the semicolon. It's very, very convenient like that. Now let's look at another example of visual selection. The normal visual selection, not the block one. Let's search once again in visual selection for test. Replace it with best G. And you can see once again it works exactly like how you would want. So this is incredible. I remember of all those times that I was just escaping slash exactly, yeah. And then what's amazing is that if you need to use a pattern that uses a lot of semicolons, well, shit, just use a different character. Like, it's that easy. Like, I don't know, you can use letters, by the way, if you want. I believe you can. Oh, you can't. Well, instead, you can. Yeah. Okay, huh. Well, instead, you can use literally any character, but I guess in Vim, you have to use, like, a special character. By the way, I gotta point out the power of ZS and ZE. I'm not gonna explain them here because I already explained them on one of my recent streams, so either watch that or go read the docs on it. These are probably the most useful thing you probably didn't know about Vim or Neovim patterns. They're like huge. I'm not gonna spoil what they do though. Okay, what is next? I should really consider to learn sed. I used some time for a little search and replace in my bash script, and in Neovim, I'm more of a macro girl. For the terminal, I recommend using SD instead. You can install it with SD, I believe. Yeah, here you go. It makes more sense, it's more intuitive, it is overall better. But yeah, naturally, in Vim and Neovim, you kind of gotta have to use what is effectively sed, but with a bunch of other different rules. And I super recommend learning about it. At the very least, it's very interesting. And can be super powerful. But I'm not gonna lie that, oh, like, learn this and you're going to become, like, so much more productive. No, it's mostly more interesting than useful. Of all the knowledge that I've gotten by just randomly reading help pages, a lot of it is just, huh, that's interesting. And it just kind of ends at that. The difference of SD with sed is that it doesn't use any like weird, strange syntax. It just uses either literal text, like this. This is just what you use to replace bring back with return, and that's it. And then you either enable rejects or it's enabled by default, that I forget, rather than having to use some fucking, I don't even remember how you use sed. So I think you do it like this, and then there are flags or whatever. Basically, SD works in a more straightforward and simple way. But all of it is explained in the in the README and help page. Yeah, pretty much. Gonna come back in a sec. Okay, I'm back. So, what next? Let's come back to this, and we'll search for something. So, what if you want to search? Let me start from a different perspective. Oftentimes, Vim commands, like the substitute command, it's not actually just called s. It's called substitute. So you can say substitute, and it will be the thing that you want. But this is way too much to type in, which is why I can just use s. So this kind of idea, s matches already, but it can also match more characters. You can do the same kind of idea in your normal search patterns or replace patterns. You can do fun, and then if you can find this, also grab kshon, I guess. You do \%, and then in brackets, blammo. What this will do is that it will catch fun and then as many more characters in these brackets as it can. But yes, shiny objects are hard to really use. I know I should try fish shell and starship prompt. Super try fish shell. Fish shell is actually my favorite programming language. I shit you not. It's amazing. And starship prompt. But I know if the jump to fish from 6th year of pure bash reflex is, I think I used bash for about a year, maybe more, before I finally switched to fish. Fish makes so much more sense and is easier to use a lot of the times that I super recommend it. Switching to fish is what let me like actually get into shell scripting. If it wasn't for fish, I would not bother to learn the dump truck that bash is, because bash looks ridiculous and is ridiculous to write, while fish shell is just kind of nice. It's like an actual programming language. It feels a lot better. So I have a lot of good things about fish. Okay. Next, bash is trash, array are hell. Yeah, and in fish, arrays are very simple. Every variable is a list that can contain as many items as you want. And then you can conveniently use those variables in really nice ways. But the docs explain that like better than I probably would. Let's talk about this. I made this function for something really neat. A lot of Vim commands expect a range, and oftentimes you'll want to act on the entire file, which is why you enter %. So this is really common, like for example, sort, to sort the entire file, or rather sort all the lines in the file. But pressing, in your case, colon, in my case, enter and then % is just kind of I don't like it. And then typing in my command, which is why what I did, if I press enter in command mode, and if there's nothing in there, you can see that my command line is currently empty. If I press enter again, it will enter %. Now my command line is not empty, which means that enter works normally, like you would expect. So when I press enter, it just executes %, which I guess goes to the last line in the file. So yeah, this is pretty fucking nice. So I can just do enter sort blammo. I can present a command for reference my current buffer. The % is a specifier of a range. The % basically means from the first line of this file to the last line of this file. In some commands, % is also interpreted as the path to the current file, but if you start with it, it specifies a range, like the entire file. What's feed keys? Good question. Feed keys are my abstraction functions for Neovim's API to just enter characters, to just act as if I am pressing these keys. So feed keys we use to put in a %, and feed keys int we use to press enter. And here they are. % to go from start to end of the block. Yep, that too. And if I don't remember if this is like default behavior or if you need to add a built-in Vim plugin, but this works with function and end too, as well as C's if and end if, I believe. Yeah, as you can see. So it's actually more expansive than you would think. So try it out on different things that might work as brackets. You always GVGG. Interesting. Oh, interesting. So you do interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Just use %. This references the entire file. I think it treats it that determines the range, but I use % all the time. Okay, next. I've been doing something recently. I had a playlist on YouTube that contained a bunch of memes, and I was moving that to my links file. So what I did is meme, name of the meme, long dash, and then I enter some link. Let's go to like plain YouTube. Then to my watch later, to get a certain link to give you an idea of what I was trying to do. So look at this link. The useful part of this link is this. Everything after we don't need. This list thing just specifies, oh, it's from this playlist, which is information that I don't want. And I have no clue what pp is. No clue. So effectively what I wanted to do is enter a bunch of links here and then at once remove a list from them. So we can use the substitute command for this. I just do list and then everything after list. And this will remove it. Pretty simple. But I had a bunch of links that I have added here. And all of them contain some sort of like ampersand plus bullshit that I don't need. How do I remove all of these? How do I do a replacement only on these? First of all, I can just do this on the entire file. But what if somewhere in this file I have ampersand list and then I actually do want to keep that information in some of the link? You see, I have a lot of links here and I don't have it in my head permanently that like I don't know whether executing this replace on the entire file will be safe. I know that it is safe for these lines, but I don't know if it's safe for the entire file. So effectively, I only want to do it on these lines. The very reasonable way of going about this is just selecting and going to the end, and now we can do S, and this will work how we want. However, I might not want to visually select them. Maybe I find this to be annoying. What I really want here is to do the replace on all the below lines. I don't want to touch any lines above me, but all the below lines, yeah, absolutely. So there's actually a way of doing this. We do S, then that. Well, I guess I could write it out again, but if you don't specify a search pattern in substitute, it automatically uses the last search pattern or replace pattern, which is very convenient. So you can see here that it already did the replacement. But right now it's only acting on this single line because we don't provide any range to substitute. No worries. Let's add another separator where it would have flags. Wait, no, this is the replacement. Now is the flags. But after flags, we can actually pass a count. We can provide a count to substitute, and that will mean do the substitute on this many following lines. When I press enter, it successfully removed list whatever bullshit on only all the following lines, so it wouldn't have touched any lines above. So this is very useful when all you're trying to do is change something on a few lines. Like for example, I do S class struct and then I do 2, or I guess, yeah, 3. So this line and then 2 more. So you just need to add 1 to your relative thingy, and it will only change class to struct on these 3 lines. Blammo. Very, very convenient and useful. And I didn't need to go anywhere to do it like this. I guess it's not that much of a difference, but I find it really nice to be able to provide a count like this. Nice way. I would use a macro to quickly jump and delete. And repeat my macro for each line. The issue with macros is that sometimes, I've noticed in my experience of using them, they can be really slow. Like you can actually see them being executed, which is really wild. So yeah, I didn't like that, which is why I kind of moved away from macros. Another reason for that is that basically using the norm command with quick fix list and replace and a bit more stuff that I have talked about on stream before, and some stuff that I haven't mentioned yet. Basically, there are tools to do macro-like actions without actually using macros. I'm pretty sure I talked about most of it on stream already, but the norm command needs to be known. It's like super powerful. Like for example, norm fc, we jump to C and then change class to struct, and this effectively does the same thing. A substitute seem more powerful with this built-in repeat? Absolutely. It's like more powerful, and it's going to be way faster than macros. Especially considering that it shows you what is going to replace to what. That's like very nice and very useful, because you immediately see what's going to happen. With macros, you kind of have to hope and cope that everything is going to go well. And if something fucks up, well, now you have to re-record the macro, and it's like a whole process. And if you fuck up while recording a macro, you're fucked. Of course, you can do let at where your macro is, and then fucking quotes, and then enter G, and then you need to edit it, and it may break. So basically, it is technically possible to edit a macro post-hand, but it's generally going to be way too annoying, or like hard to properly interact with. Macros are not bad, don't get me wrong, but they feel more dangerous and annoying to me than like this, for example. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. I would think that like the selection thing would only select, well, the selection, but interestingly actually doesn't care. The more you know. I was gonna show off like, oh, you can just use visual selection like this, but I guess you can't. You still need to catch stuff, which is very interesting. Wild. Okay, let me show you a built-in way to title case words. Let's select this. I guess we don't need to actually. Let us select a word. So each word on this line that is before. Wait, that doesn't work like that. Basically, let's just select every word. Then we can title case it. How? We do backslash u, and what backslash u does in the replacement part of the substitute command, it uppercases the next character. Then you can use ampersand to mean do this like ampersand basically means the entire match that we got in our search. So take this entire thing that we got and put it here. And because of the backslash u here, it uppercases the first character of the entire word. And when we do G, just uppercased everything. If we then do this, we use our latest visual selection, it only uppercased the words that I selected. So this is quite neat. You can actually use this to make like a title casing operator that would work like this. It would like prompt you to visually select something and then title case whatever you have selected. It's so cool. Yeah, I agreed. Macro is like playing in a minefield. Exactly. Dance very well, but sometimes they just boom. On God, yeah. Macros scare me. I tried a lot to like get used to using them, but I found that things like norm and stuff surrounding that is just kind of easier and more trustworthy. So it can do transformation to the matching group. It's amazing. And this \u, like it doesn't stop at that. You can use \l, and that will lowercase the first character. They were lowercased anyway, I believe. No. The I was uppercased actually. So we lowercase I in this case, but we would lowercase the first character of each word here. Then if you use capital U, it will uppercase everything. And then if you need to, you can do \E to finish the uppercasing region. So we start uppercasing every single character, then the entire thing that we matched, uppercase that. Okay, we stop uppercasing. Let's add something else. You can see that ASDF is not uppercased because we ended with \E. And I believe lowercase e works too. Yeah, it does. But if we remove it, you can see ASDF is uppercased as well. Then similarly, we can do capital L to lowercase everything. Then we do uppercase ASDF. You can see that it's lowercase now. But if we do \E or \E, ASDF keeps being uppercase like we entered it. So you can do case transformations in your replacements. Maybe you don't actually need to replace any words, but you need to change the casing of some things. You can pretty easily make like a thing, make a mapping that toggles title case of the current word. Isn't that super cool? Or at least title case is the current word. I love this a lot. Not capital L is only the start. So \UL, capital U and capital L are to be used in the replacement part of the substitute command. So it doesn't make any sense here. It means a different thing, if I believe. So it is specifically to be used in the replacement part. But it doesn't have to start like at the beginning of the replacement. Like we can put SDF here. So as you can see, you can use \LU, capital L, capital U, anywhere in your replacement. Damn cool, I didn't know about the E. Yeah, this is what reading the docs of Neovim for fun gives you. You get to learn about random shit like this, which is cool and maybe even useful eventually. Surely, right? I mean, it's useful. I just haven't come across a situation where I would actually use it. Mm-hmm. I'm using a plugin for this, textcase.neovim. It supports LSP and tree-sitter. Doing this manually is exhausting. 100%, yeah. Like, a plugin is going to be better for this. It's just that I don't notice myself needing to title case things nearly often enough to delve into discovering a plugin. It's going to be better with a plugin, I just kind of don't care. And if I do need to, like, eventually title case some words, I might actually just do this manually like this. Like, it's kind of a lot, honestly. Like, if you do this pretty often, you will want to plug in for this, because that's kind of a lot of characters to type in for an action this kind of simple. But I wouldn't particularly mind doing this every once in a while. Overall, I think it's a very good idea to know how to do things by default in Vim, get good at them, and then, if needed, find a plugin or some other better method to shortcut it, to make it easier and faster. But there's still value in knowing the default way first. Always read the friendly manual, yeah. Okay, if I'm here, it's because I never read the friendly manual. The real, like, secret, I guess, is to make it so fun for you to discover new things about Neovim that you'll just want to read the docs for fun. Which is a huge ask, by the way, like, that's a lot. Okay, so let's do some replacement. Let's replace video with audio. And let's do another replacement, but now we want to change VOD to audio as well. I can type it in again, but I actually don't need to. If I use the tilde, it automatically uses the last replacement string that I used. I bet 99% of Vim users didn't know about this. Yeah, absolutely. Like 100%. Yeah. Like, it's already hard to find Vim users, but to find Vim users that know about these things that I'm talking about right now, god damn, I would be impressed. Because, I don't know, it's not usual for people to just be randomly scrolling through help pages for fun. So you can see that we can just use the latest replace string by using tilde. There's a lot of power in this. Let's say we actually don't even need to type in video, because once again, if you don't provide a search string, it automatically uses the last search pattern that you used with slash or percent or other question mark, or the last substitution pattern. So I don't even need to type in video. You can just skip it and it automatically assumes I'm using video. And now what I can do is actually, let's do it a bit of a different way. Let's search for a word. Let's search for the first word on a line, and then do \u ampersand. So we search for the first word on a line and uppercase the entire pattern that we matched. So the first word on the line. Cool. Now let's go here and do the same thing. We search for a word, and now we just do tilde, and that like works correctly. It used the previous replace string, which was \u ampersand, and instead of putting video here like it did here, it understood like, oh, you mean this entire match. So it used VOD here. So rather than using the literal last replace string, it understands what you mean. Like, it effectively re-enters. It effectively re-enters this, but you don't have to type it out. What if I told you you don't even need to type in anything, actually? You just do S. I believe you can just literally say S. Yeah, you can. So if you just say S, and then the flags, G for example, and then the count, you don't have to type in these, by the way. It's just if you want to. If you just do S, it will redo the last substitute command, but maybe on a changed range. It's like the for searches. Yeah, exactly. So this is useful if you want to change the pattern that you're searching for. Maybe instead of the word, you want to search for the first digit and then uppercase it, which is funny in concept. So you change the search pattern here, but you still want to uppercase the whole match. But if you just want to replace the last substitute that you did, just say S. What if I told you you don't even need to enter command mode at all? Literally just press the ampersand and this will do this. However, this is such a rare situation for me to redo the last substitute without changing anything, that I remapped ampersand to instead redo my latest command mode command, which is a bit more flexible. So I can do like norm I is df, and when I press ampersand, it will redo my latest command mode command, which by the way includes S. So let's search for VOD and change it to bloat. I can do ampersand, and this also works for substitute, rather than the default ampersand, meaning redo the last substitute and only that, which is a bit too restricting. Vim and Vi were really good precursors with all these neat things. Absolutely. The huge disadvantage of them, though, is that they're difficult to find out, difficult to learn, and difficult to get used to. Which is why I'm like patiently waiting for a new model editor that is built with like modern views in mind, rather than this like basically magic. Let me go show you the mapping that I have for, yeah, here we go. So, is this it? Normal and visual. Seems that way, yeah. So, basically, when I press ampersand, it acts as the macro invocation, and the register that we give it is the colon register, which contains the last command mode command that you executed. So this way, when I press ampersand, it just executes the latest command mode command. So you can probably see how macros will pretty quickly become kind of useless. Maybe not useless, but I won't need to use them nearly as much. Like for example, what can I give as a good example? I mean, stopping the cycle of calling thing new Neovim or Vi of Vi the ed. Now, No, basically what I mean is that Neovim is built on a old foundation of Vim, which is built on an old foundation of Vi, and therefore Neovim, even though it's quote-unquote new, is built on ruins. It's built on really old stuff that doesn't make any sense at this point. Maybe it did in the past, it doesn't now though. All these things that I'm currently showing to you, by all accounts, they're way too difficult to be reasonable, and like they're hard to discover and they're hard to get used to. I want a model editor that makes more sense to begin with, rather than having to learn all of these like insane things, you know? I was trying to make a joke with all of the ancestors. Vi is the base of Ed. Wait, is it? I've heard of Helix and I have good hopes for it, but it doesn't have plugin support yet, so it's, I would even go as far as to say, a useless editor. For a configurator like me, if something doesn't support plugins yet, I basically can't use it, because I will be writing custom functionality, I always do. But I hope it gets plugins and they're good and it becomes like the most popular one, or maybe an even newer, better modal editor, I don't know. Basically, I have hopes for the future. So let me show you. Let's do norm 3W, change until the end of the word, something. So I want to change the third word on this line to something. And then Control Q, escape. I talked about this on one of my streams. J. And let's repeat that. Oh, interesting. It, hold up, let me redo that. And see, here, I'm effectively editing a macro. However, it's way more straightforward and easy. I fucked up, but no worries, because I can just edit it. And here we go. Whoops. See, like, it doesn't pose any risk to fail, because you can very easily fix your mistake. That is not the case in macros. And I've been thinking of making like a more useful way of editing macros. I wanted to make a mapping to edit a register in a convenient way, but that was unfortunately way too difficult, trying to use Neovim's API for making windows and temporary buffers and all that stuff. So basically it's not worth it. You can see I keep on changing the third word, or yes, the fourth in this case, to something. And if I'm like, oh wait, hold up, not the fourth word, the third one. Well, shit, would you look at that? I can just go edit it and now it's fine. Like, I'm effectively using macros here. Not even effectively, I am using macros. Basically macros. But they're so much easier and risk-free. So, it's amazing. There's a mapping for how to edit macros in Vim Galore repo. That's good. Cool. There's also one in Telescope, which kind of has the issue that I've been talking about. Oh, wait, hold up. Search for this, I guess, and then you can edit your register. And while I don't have to escape all of this in quotes, it will have the issue of maybe breaking in some cases, similar to how the let at register approach I showed you earlier in the stream. That can break, and I assume this can too, although I haven't really tried to use this extensively. Maybe it just works straight up and I'm like bashing on it for no reason, but I don't trust it effectively. Now you can press Ctrl F. Oh, you can't. Well, yeah, then at least the issue with this is that you can't use Control F to edit it. What are you talking about? In command mode, you can press Control F and that will open a window, a temporary buffer for you to edit your command like normally. And then when you press enter, it executes. Voila! Sorry for the order. Was ed, then x, then y. We're having a TUI, then vim, then neovim, a long chain. Yeah, indeed. I'm hoping that the next big thing is going to stop relying so much on old ideas and practices that don't make sense anymore. In a way, I think Neovim is a mistake. It should have made way more breaking changes from Neovim. Well, I guess what I'm asking of Neovim is to not be Vim at all, kinda, and remake most things, which is somewhat unreasonable. So yeah. So aside from using this in S, let's actually search for VOD. So if you omit your search pattern in substitute, it will automatically use the latest one. Let's actually do it like this, right? But you can actually make this even shorter. You can use tilde automatically. I'm trying here. Let me actually go and search how exactly it works. I only recently came across it. Right, okay, so let's do S where we change VOD to ASDF. And now we want to change video to ASDF. So we search for video, and then we do tilde, and now we just enter some flags. Like we can immediately do GC, for example, as flags, and then the count. But you don't need to. So we can just do this, and this will replace with the same replacement string, but our pattern is the last search pattern. So we can keep searching for different things and replacing different things to the same exact replacement string. And in the same way, we can do change VOD to uppercase VOD, and it will work like you would expect. Let's search for win, and you basically get the idea. So this is also very, very useful in theory, but I'm not yet comfortable with using it enough to really show it in full kind of power. But here it is. How long have I been streaming? Yeah, I usually have Steam for about an hour and a bit more. But I'm tired now, so thank you for watching and goodbye. Oh, by the way, in my description, you'll see a link to my Discord server, so go ahead and join it. It's full of cool people who are also into all these sort of things about Linux, Neovim, fucking fish shell, programming, Rust, whatever. Thanks for all those knowledge. I will in the future consider more using substitute and read the docs. And also be a fish. Definitely go and become a fish. That's the most important part.